It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Tuesday, September 23rd. Your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that's looking ahead to the second preseason game.
It's coming fast.
Your Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. I've been podcasting about the Flyers, the NHL, and hockey for a decade, and I'm here with prospect expert and Flyers credentialed reporter for 20 years, Russ Cohen. To keep up with our latest episodes and Flyers news, you can find us at Locked On Flyers on all your favorite socials, and of course, here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Russ, it has been so lovely and heartwarming to see all the tributes continue to come in after, the loss of Bernie Parent. And I feel like he is definitely one of those guys that transcended hockey. There's like Flyers guys that are Flyers community only sort of, that just don't bleed out into the rest of the Philadelphia sports world or the general sports world. And like Bernie Parent definitely like crashed through all of those barriers, I think, just to become like a Philadelphia sports legend in and of itself without limiting it to hockey. And we've seen that from the wider sports community.
Yeah, like he didn't become just a legend because he won Stanley Cups. Like that wasn't
Right.
it. And even for like the younger generation, it wasn't just like, hey, Bernie's a good guy. He won Stanley Cups. He should just, have a key to the city for life. No, he did always a lot of work around the area. He always had time for kids. He spoke to everybody. He was terrific with other players. I talked about it last show, how players of the Rangers loved him, even though he was beating them on the regular basis. And when I watched him, he
Right.
was beating them on a regular basis for a while. So, yeah, he also had a bad eye injury that he tried to come back from. That was kind of
Right.
gutsy and heroic, and I remember that well. And that was a tough moment in his career, So, he had the ups and downs, all of it. Yeah, he was a real likable guy. You talk to him, he was a relatable guy. He wasn't like a guy that, I don't know, for lack of a better term, like an NBA guy that's making, 250 million on his next contract and can't really talk to him because there's nothing that you have in common. He always had things in
Right.
common with everybody in the area.
Yeah, and that's what everybody's saying, right? We've seen like tributes to him at the Eagles game
hmm
on Sunday. We saw the Sixers and Phillies post something about him. Past Flyers players, whether they played in his era or not, Eric Lindros, Chris Pronger, Jake Voracek, all just paying tribute to somebody that was such an integral part of the Flyers organization and the Flyers family, all the broadcasters, of course. Man, I almost cried reading Jim Jackson's
Oh,
post.
I
Like,
bet.
they obviously, they were so close. And I think, it just speaks to Bernie's legacy. And, I think much like Ed Snyder in a lot of ways, like Bernie Parent's legacy, even though he was a player and Ed Snyder founded the team, I think, they're both just synonymous with the Flyers and will be, yeah, for the time in memoriam.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the biggest names were Ed Schneider, Bernie Perron, Bobby Clark. Like
Bobby Clark.
those
That's
were
it.
the biggest names
Yep.
when I was growing up watching. Those were the guys that if you hated the Flyers, you hated them because of two of them. Nobody really
Yeah.
hated Ed Snyder. They would just be like, wow, this guy is just a little bit like
He's
really
he's a little
into
much
this,
as an
a little
owner,
much.
but
That's a perfect way to say it. But,
yeah, yeah.
but everybody appreciated how much he loved the sport, and Bernie was the same way. Like he always talked to other Flyers goalies. I would always see him, giving advice if it was like preseason and stuff. You'd see him around, you'd see him in the locker room. I had interviewed him for like my Flyers book and even my Ranger books. Like I said, that alumni game was fun and he was very quotable during that time. You
Yeah.
always could go up to him and he will always be remembered. Always. He will probably get a
Always.
statue now.
the hockey world being what it is sometimes, we do have a running joke out there about how does this affect the Leafs. And Elliot Friedman told a story on 32 Thoughts about how the contract dispute that Bernie Perron had with the Leafs at the time that led to him coming and playing for the Philadelphia Flyers was a huge deal and had potentially changed the entire course of history for the Toronto Maple Leafs, which I guess that's entirely plausible as a theory,
I
but
mean, it's only a part of it. With the
yeah, I know.
continued, probably.
Yeah, I know. It's just like, come on.
Leafs.
Like, are we really going to make this about the Leafs?
No, but what I'm saying is, having watched the Leafs for many years, Rachel, they've had tremendous players. They've lost tremendous players. It's a lot of times about the pressure that gets put on the players for playing in Toronto because everybody cares so damn much. And I'm not blaming the fans, but I'm just saying you want to talk about a high pressure job.
It's a pressure cooker.
It's a high pressure job, man.
Yeah. Anyway, but I just thought that was like a wild way to approach talking about Bernie Perron. But that being said, let's talk about the current Philadelphia Flyers. It was an off day yesterday, so we didn't get any news about camp cuts as of recording. We didn't really get a chance to talk about the first official round of cuts since it happened earlier over the weekend. We will talk again about Austin Moline because obviously he was in that first round of cuts. We're going to talk about the USHL tournament and some standout prospects from that a little later in the show. We're going to talk about what we want out of game 2 in the preseason against Montreal that's coming up tonight. And we did see Nathan Quinn sent back to junior hockey. He was the 2025 6th round pick that we thought had done pretty well at Dev Camp, right?
Definitely showed a little something. Yeah, I think he goes back with a little more than he came in with.
Yeah, just had a really good rookie camp, I thought, but just made sense to let him practice with his team. And the camp invite goaltender, obviously, with main camp starting and 4 goaltenders, there just really wasn't a need for Costanzo to stick around, but still a good opportunity for him at rookie camp for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, again, he'll go back to Windsor, right? And he'll have a good season. He was okay. I mean,
yeah, I think this is he probably learned a lot about what he has to work on this year, and we'll see what opportunities he may have.
Different players. He got to get a little jump on, before camp opened. Like, that's good for him.
Yeah, and just following up a little bit more about the preseason game, we were focusing on more of the highlights. We got to talk a little bit about some lowlights there as well in the game against the Islanders. Of course, real bummer to see Lane Peterson injured in the first period of that game. He had come out, I think, really strong and was aggressive early on in the game, and just like a bad hit takes him out of the game. It happens. It's day to day. You really hate to see that in the preseason, and I think that for the most part, the game was on the level. Now, it did get heated, and I would say especially so after Noah Julesen's hit on Kashan Aitchison. He had to leave the game, and thank goodness he's day to day, and it's not as bad as it looked.
He already had a camp injury, so you worry about that a little.
You do worry. And I think that, obviously he's a prospect we talked about at length leading up to the draft because we thought he might be a good option for the Flyers. He wound up going to the Islanders. And so just glad to hear that it's not as bad as we initially thought. But I think it just kind of shows in a lot of ways what kind of player Noah Julesen is, because it was like it was not called as a penalty in the game.
And I didn't see the hit, but again, these guys have gotten so good at disguising things that are on the edge of being a penalty. They have.
No, I know. And that's the thing is, like, I think, there's a lot of us that are less familiar with Julesen and his game, again, because he was out west and we hadn't really seen him in a game environment. And this is just like shows what he can provide, that he provides that intensity. He's going to throw a hit and he's going to do it and not get called on a penalty for it. And the only penalty that got called at that time was the retaliation penalty that Tony DeAngelo took.
which again,
So,
you just say something to Tony D'Angelo, you'll get a retaliation out of it. Here's what I would say. I'm
yeah.
already starting to get text. Noah Julesen's making the team. You don't have to wonder what's going to happen. He's going to take somebody's spot. The coach likes him, and he likes him for that reason too, but he knows him. Like, you might as well, if you don't like the way he plays, it doesn't matter. He's going to make the team.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I wasn't necessarily like negative about him, but I
No, I'm
wasn't
just saying
effusive of,
there were
no, I'm
people
saying
texting
like
me. Yeah.
in terms of my evaluation of his game. I
Oh,
don't
okay.
think I'm like negative on him, but I don't think I'm effusive about him either. I think he's fine as a 6-7 defenseman on your
Right.
roster.
Yeah,
Right.
I think that's accurate.
Yeah. So, I want to see like how close to the line he continues to play. And if it's going to turn into a liability, then it's a problem. But
Right.
for now, I think it's okay.
Mhm.
And I can live with him as the number 6 or number 7
Yeah.
defenseman on this roster for sure as of now. But I do want to see him play some more over the preseason and get a better sense of that and see
Sure.
what his defensive game looks like over, a more consistent time period. And want to see some other players too, right? There's some vets we haven't seen yet. There's
Yep.
some prospects we haven't seen yet in the
Yep.
preseason. So we're going to talk about our expectations going into tonight's second preseason game against Montreal coming up next.
The NFL season's finally here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready with kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Players props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping into live action as it unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. Again, I just stick with the Baltimore Ravens to win the Super Bowl. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
All right. On tomorrow's show, we are going to welcome from NBC Sports Philadelphia our friend Jordan Hall for our annual season preview that we seem to be doing with him.
Yeah, it's good.
Always excited to talk to Jordan, and he always has a pretty unique perspective on the team, and always appreciate his insight. So excited to talk to him. So we are going to push our mailbag segment to the Thursday show. Make sure you get those questions in. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com. You can message us on any of our socials or comment over on our YouTube channel. Now, heading into this second preseason game, I think the biggest question for me in terms of what they're going to do is in goaltending. Are we going to actually see Urson or Vladar in this second preseason game, or are we going to stick with Kolosov and or Bjarnason?
It's a great question. I have no clue. If I'm guessing Urson's not playing yet.
I would say so. I think we'll probably see Vladar and one of the other two.
Most likely.
That would be my supposition.
Yeah.
I want to see Bjarnason again. I think of
and I think
two.
they probably do too before they send him to Lehigh, and Kolosov certainly, they probably want to give him one more game before they send him to Lehigh, and then eventually that camp's going to get close to opening, and I think that's where they're going with that.
Right. And obviously you have to preface this by saying that one preseason game is meaningless in the grand scheme of things. However, I do want to point out in that game against the Islanders that both Kolosov and Bjarnason, when all was said and done, faced the same number of shots. Now, Bjarnason faced a whole bunch of 3-on-3 shots in the overtime. So it's different than 5-on-5 hockey, obviously, but they both faced 17 shots on goal. And
but you felt like Bjarnason looked a little better.
Oh yeah, he saved all 17 shots, right? Yeah. Obviously he lets them in the shootout, but that's a whole different category, right? So he was batting 1,000 on his save percentage in that game.
But even your report made it sound like he looked better, even if you didn't tell me what the amount of goals were. Yeah,
for sure. And Kolosov was 882, right? And so it's 15 saves on 17 shots, which on its face isn't terrible. Right?
That would be an improvement over last year, technically.
Exactly. And so like the percentage is a little scary because we're aiming for that 900 threshold, but
Seems like
it's
a big mountain to climb at the moment.
yeah, and that's why I want to just point that out, that the numbers make it sound better than my report did.
Right.
And given the fact that it's one game, it's the first preseason game, I don't want to put too much weight on it. But that being said, that's why I want to see Bjarnason again, because I want to see
Sure.
if that was sort of a fluke. And I also want to see him more. I want to see more 5-on-5 time from him because we only got one period.
That's fair.
And that's why I want to see Bjarnason for the most part. So it will be interesting to see what they do with the goalie rotation in the preseason moving forward. Obviously, we're going to see the veteran players that we didn't see
Right.
in that first game. So we're going to see Sean Couturier, we're going to see Owen Tippett, we'll see Travis Sanheim, and most importantly to me, Cam York, because I think that, when we saw the power play drills that they did prior to the scrimmage that we talked about on yesterday's show, we kind of broke that down a little bit on that program. I think, the fact that Cam York was not one of the power play quarterbacks in that scenario was a little bit of concern, because we really think that Cam York should at least get a shot at it.
He should
But it
get a
was
shot.
Sanheim, right?
Yeah, he should get a shot. Again, I'm against Sean Couturier being on the power play for a multitude of reasons. Biggest one is there's so many effective minutes, just so many he could play a game. And early in the season, he's better than mid-season, as we've seen, and as it rolls on. And he just wasn't effective on the power play last year. His points were not effective, and it hasn't been for a little while. So it's like, I think they have to get away from the fact that, hey, this is what Sean Couturier used to be, and kind of give somebody else a chance on it. Uh, you know, and I will add this as far as the Bobby Brink stuff, because I know some people don't want him on the power play. I think that's a Danny Briere call. Like Rick Tocchet said, that Danny Briere and Keith Jones have input, and he's going to let
At
it
least
go for a
early
little
on,
while.
right?
And I
Yeah.
think that's the input.
Yeah, I think so too. But I don't think it's a problem on power play too. I really don't. As
No,
long
but I
as
mean,
it's
he
not.
wasn't effective either last year. So if that's the only thing, is like, I understand what they're trying to achieve there, because they have a
Yeah.
certain amount sunk cost in Bobby, and that Bobby has talent for sure. But sometimes you do need to change it up a little bit more when it was really stale last year. And so far, they haven't convinced me that it's better. I'll grant you that the movement and all look good, but you know how I feel about that.
Right. And I would say, as far as Sean Couturier on the power play, at least for this game, we're going to see it because
Oh,
it's a
yeah.
split squad, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you can't really read too much into it this time around. But as we get closer to the regular season, I want to see maybe some adjustments and see where these power play units come out in the wash. That'll be important. I just want to see Owen Tippett finish on a shot. That's
Right.
what I would like to see.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I mean, he has to be lined up where he's the hammer and he gets the shots. And
Mm-hmm.
this is preseason. I would tell the team, feed him. We got to see if this guy could score on the power play anymore. Because if
Right.
he can't, then
But also at 5-on-5. I don't care whether it's
I
on the
know.
power play or 5-on-5.
But the point is, he really should be scoring on the power play with the shot he has.
He should. He absolutely should. As far as some of the prospects that did play versus the Islanders that I want to see again, I want to see Jack Nesbitt again, because I think that we really need to see him up level the offensive side of his game a little bit from where it was. I think he did really well on a lot of things in his game, but I want to see it against a different team first off. And then I want to see what he could potentially do offensively.
Sure. I mean, my biggest thing is, and I wish people would control the hype a little bit. He was 3 for 10 on faceoffs.
Yeah.
And this is something where if you feel like he's getting close to the NHL, 30% on faceoffs isn't the way to get there.
Right, but I want to see him get the experience of more NHL faceoffs so that he
all
knows what
the
he's working
experience
toward.
is fine. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
when I'm seeing things, reading things, it's like, this is a big thing. So yeah, you could put him in for 2, 3, 4 games and have him go 30-35% on faceoffs to learn, but then you got to send him back. You
Right.
don't want to continue to do that.
I agree. I just want to see him again for him to get that experience and
Yes.
to maybe tweak some things.
Yeah, that's
That's
fine.
where I'm going with that. Emil Andre, I want to see him again. Is he hungry? The way it seems like, prove it and keep playing. Just
Yeah.
like run it back and keep
Yeah.
playing Emil Andre, because I think that's important.
I'm a little
Um,
worried though. I feel like even if he has the greatest camp, I feel like this could be a thing where all of a sudden, like, oh yeah, he's kind of small. We got smaller guys, and all of a sudden he's not there to
that it
start the
won't be
season.
because of what he did. It'll be because
Correct.
of external factors.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you never
That's a
know.
worry.
Yeah, it could be. It could be, but I want to give him every opportunity to
Yeah,
state
sure.
his case.
I
I
agree.
think Denver Barkey, I'm kind of in the same camp as I am with Nesbitt, right? I want to see him again because I want to give him that opportunity
Yeah.
to really tweak some of the things, like
Mhm.
repeat some of the things he did well. Like I thought he had some really good moves. I thought he had some really good instincts offensively. I just want to see him round out his game, and the more reps he gets against NHL level players, the better it is for him. So I that's why I want to see him again for sure in the second game. And then obviously there's some prospects we didn't see in the first game that we're
Right.
gonna see. We're gonna see Jet Luchenko. I really want to see Hunter McDonald and see what style of game he plays against Montreal.
If you ask me what I think Hunter McDonald's strengths are right now, I would just say his skating. I'm not even sure he's a shutdown guy yet. He hasn't really even proven that to me. He did have a okay second half of last year, but the way he started off this year, he's got a lot to prove to me.
He really does. And I think that we saw a lot of really good stuff from him late in the season last year, but I want to see him start off where he left off, right?
Yeah, I want to see him do that too. So yeah, I think it's important for him to be in there, and I think that's an important thing. Let's see what he's got.
And then lastly, I want to see Helge Grans thrive, because I
Mhm.
think, he's been lost in the shuffle to some extent. I think he has been noticed, but I do want to give him this opportunity because much like he's kind of in the same boat as Emil Andre in a
He is.
completely different role, right?
Yeah, and again, I think they know if they send him down, somebody's going to have an injury somewhere, and he's going to get selected. Somebody's going to take him on waivers. So yeah, I feel like Danny mentioned him, so obviously he at least is on the radar. Now the rest is kind of up to him, but still, he could be a victim of circumstance too. Because if it comes down to him or Noah Juleson, it's going to be Noah Juleson. And is that fair to Helge Grans? Probably not, but that's the way this league works sometimes.
Right. So again, I'm looking to see good things
And I want
from
to see more
Helge
offense.
Grans.
I just in the scrimmages yesterday, I haven't seen enough offense out of this team yet.
Yeah, I think that is key. I know they're trying to work from defense out here a little bit, but at a certain point, you have to really push offensively a little bit more.
There is that thought that defense can turn into offense, but there is also this thing where there are some players that if they have to focus so much on defense, it affects their offense. And, you got to see who could, do the best job with that. But they do need to create more offense. There's just no question about it.
They absolutely do. All right. Well, we are going to switch gears a little bit. Russ attended the USHL prospect tournament this past weekend. We're going to talk about some potential draft picks for next year that have stood out coming up next. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's your 401ks, your properties, or your investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. And that is why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing those finances, Monarch is for you. It does all the heavy lifting. You link all your accounts in minutes. You'll see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending. You'll finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. You'll even notice inefficient investment allocation and discover forgotten 401ks from past jobs. You'll save even more money, which you can then turn around and invest. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNHL. So, Russ, the USHL Prospects Tournament, what is the tournament first off? Like, why do they have it prior to the USHL season kicking off?
Well, it's not prior. This is the kickoff to the season. So it's the Fall Classic. Every team is there, and they all play 4 games a day for a period of 4 days. Yeah. And so it's pretty frenetic. Like, you go to one game, let's say it starts at 2:30. You see some of that game, two periods. Then the other game starts at 3:30. Then there's a 4:30, a 5, and an 8 maybe, or a 7. So it's hard to do. And actually, the people at the UPMC Lemieux rink, it's an amazing thing that they can juggle all that. But what it does is it gets about this year, I would say there's probably 125 scouts there this year. So a lot of scouts. There was a lot of talk because of the way everything's kind of gotten reworked with college hockey, with the Canadian League, with all the other things that are involved with that maybe this league was going to lose some talent. And, I think they lost a little, but that there's still a lot of talent. And actually, there were a bunch of guys for 2027 that were jumping off the page, but I'm not even going to mention them in this. I'm going to mention the Michigan State guys first, because obviously Porter Martone goes there, and yes, Van Sage too, but nobody's worried about, like, is Shane Van Sage coming out next year? But everybody's worried about Porter Martone. But the thought is they're really building a big time team there, and
Right.
I would not blame Porter Martone if he says, "Hey, can you guys wait another year because they get close this year and maybe feel like they could win a championship next year?" When it gets in these guys' blood, a lot of times that's a thing. So I'm just saying it now because a lot of times fans are like, well, he's just going to be one and done and he's going to come. And it's like, you don't know the circumstances until it, like, kind of happens. And even the player doesn't. And so, as an example, go ahead.
And when you say Michigan State guys that were in this tournament, it's guys who play in the USHL now but are
Correct.
committed
that
to
are
Michigan
committed to
State.
Michigan next year. Because
Right.
I know everybody
So-
thinks, well, they're not going to play with Martone. He's not going to be there. And it's like, guys have played 2 years. Like, it's not an
Right.
outrageous thing. Plenty of guys. Jack Hextall is one of them, plays for the Youngstown Phantoms, really talented center. He may have been on the best line that I saw during that time. He's terrific. He is a guy that wants the puck. He's got speed. He's a playmaker and a shooter, and he's got a really high hockey IQ. This guy, he's 6 foot, so he's really got everything you want from an NHL player. He's probably somewhere in that top 15 right now.
And no relation, right?
No relation. So, yeah. So that's a good thing that he's going to Michigan State. That gives a team like the Flyers a little bit of an edge to find out about Jack Hextall, maybe even a little more than some other teams will find out. So, next guy, Jonas Kemps. This is a 6'5" defenseman for Chicago Steel. He was playing up on the top pairing. He moves really well for a guy 6'5". He was, I saw him get a couple of assists, or at least one assist. He got one assist. Really looks good moving the puck up the ice. He's a good passer. He's smart. He's physical. I feel like when he gets stronger, he's really going to be able to pound guys a little more. He has that all-around game. He's not like a superstar offensive player or anything, but he has the kind of tools that NHL GMs like and everybody looks for. So I think anywhere from, a second pairing to third pairing defenseman, but he looks like an NHLer. So he's a guy on the Chicago Steel. They've produced a lot of good players over the years. The best player in the league, Tynan Lawrence, was hurt. He has a foot injury, so he didn't get to play, but he won a Clark Cup last year before his draft year. So the fact that he was almost a point a game in the regular season, had a championship, I didn't find one scout or one assistant GM that was worried that he didn't play. He's not going to lose his standing. He's probably
so
a
what's
top
the
5
nature of
pick.
the injury and what kind of time do you think?
I heard it'll be by next month he'll be back. So
All
nothing
right.
serious. So, I'm hearing he'll get like 50 games or whatever was left on their schedule. I think they have a 62 game schedule. So plenty of season
He's going
left.
to be you.
He's going to be you, another center, and somewhere between like 5 and 7, he's going to get his name called. And even though he didn't play people are still talking about him. So, again, two of those players, they had two players for sure that are going top 20. They probably have three. We had talked about Blake Zielinski before. He's at that tournament. He looks like he can make the first round as well. So, if you start adding it up, they're going to have their say in the first round, just like in the past.
Yeah, it's always really interesting because first off, it is like very upsetting that these kids were born in 2008. Like, I don't even want to think about
Yeah.
about
Listen,
that
I
at
was
all.
watching Brian Trottier's grandson.
Grandson?
Grandson.
Ugh.
Brian Trottier was in the building, and sure enough, Parker plays for the NTDP. So I
Mhm.
was watching his grandson. The only thing that made me feel better is, I was watching Brian when I was a teenager. But other than that, I didn't
Was he
feel
any
so great.
good?
He's pretty good. Yeah,
He's
he
pretty
actually got
good.
better. And I think there's something there. I want to see more of him. But yeah, so he's not just carrying the name. He definitely has a really good hockey IQ for sure, and can skate. So yeah, I mean, that's all you need to know, man.
All right. Well, that was simultaneously depressing and also very encouraging, um, in terms of thinking ahead and, what prospects we are going to need to start keeping an eye on over the course of this next season. That will do it for today's show. Thanks so much for listening. We will be back tomorrow with our season preview with Jordan Hall. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. So if you've got your mailbag questions or Flyers thoughts, if you have Bernie Perrant thoughts, also let us know on any of our socials at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com or comment on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on Bluesky and Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology on the same socials, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. For your next listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast. It brings you the daily league-wide stories that matter most with local coverage you love from Locked On. You can find it on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day, everyone.